Let's go ahead and do it today.
Sorry, we're a minute late. Hair and makeup took forever.
No, we're on time. This might be more on time than we've ever been.
So, well, see, low expectations. If we're late every week and then we're on time this week, it's like, yeah. It's like, was it Vince Lombardi time was like 10 minutes early?
It's also military, 15 minutes before the 15 minutes, you know?
Man.
You can't just show up at quarter till. You got to show up quarter till before the quarter till, you know, because you can't be the guy sprinting up right at the very end.
No, because that would be terribly efficient. If first sergeant says you got to be there 10 minutes before the commander is there, and then your platoon sergeant wants you there 10 minutes before the first sergeant, your squad leader wants you to be there, because nobody wants to look bad in the process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nobody wants their soldier to be the one that was late for formation. So.
And you don't want to be the one that's sprinting up, because then you're different. And if you're different, that's wrong.
It's the tall poppy. You know,
right?
Tall poppy gets cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they would always tell me in the Q course, they're like, you're tall, so everyone's going to want you on their team, because when the sniper comes out, he's going for you. I'm like, thanks, guys, that's awesome.
Do you think you struggle with that, like in the Q course or different like scenarios, because you're so tall that like you just naturally catch people's eye?
Well, I naturally catch people's eye anyway, Blayne. But
yeah. Well, I guess the other side of the coin is when you were young and single, did it work? You were the tallest guy.
No, it didn't actually. But in the Q course, the benefit was just being taller. I mean, it makes rucking easier. Longer legs, you know. I got to take 10 steps to someone else's 15. Eventually, I'm just more efficient. So it's easier for me to go faster over the course of however long. But log PT, anything that involved that type of stuff, I struggle relative to, I mean, log PT, it sucks. I'm doing it like, you know, like the Hunchback. It's terrible.
Like Nick carrying the Zodiac at the zombie apocalypse tough a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Oh. So what were we going to talk about? Oh, I remember. So Monster also wants to say hello. He was all pissed off when we started the show, mainly because he wasn't on camera. There's a thing about Monster that you guys might not know. If you follow him, you can see that he's very photogenic. He's in like all of our photos. He does a pretty amazing job. It's not that hard to get him to take a good photo. But the downside of that is whenever the camera comes out and things start to happen, if it's not focused on Monster, he'll come in and make sure he gets in the shot, bites your pant leg, steals a water bottle and starts running around with it. But now he's right here under the table.
Yeah,
I think he feels part of it.
We'll get him up here in a bit.
So Jason and I we just both got back from DC. We were up there for a couple of days this week for various reasons, but I was talking at a thing that was put on by a nonprofit organization that was helping military members and their spouses successfully transition out of the military and get jobs or start businesses or whatever. And you were talking at the VA yesterday, right? Kind of telling your story about your military transition and utilizing the GI Bill and making good on it. I like that topic, by the way. If you're going to use government benefits, then you should be leveraging those benefits to make good and like actually create something.
Yeah. So I mean, mine was it was a talk sort of bright lights and everyone hush hush and everything's black and around you, and instead of Budweiser, it was a little bottle of water with a straw. Right. It was like this, except with the straw, and I had it right here. I'm like, damn, Budweiser helps my thinking. Should I tell them? And I didn't.
But then they'd be like, well, you're a functioning alcoholic.
Yeah,
we can't have that here at the VA.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd have a prescription
all sorts
when you
of
left.
That stuff would have happened. But it was for a kind of, it's called the TAPS program. I'm like that military guy that knows the acronym but doesn't know Transition
Assistance Program?
Yes, yeah. Exactly. So they're redoing it, and they're trying to engage people who are going through that as they're transitioning out of the military. And they have found out after years of studying that 73 slide PowerPoint presentations, they don't work that well. So
really?
They want to have someone come and talk and provide a little energy and life to it. So there was a bunch of us, and there's just sort of various elements of this story. So it was, you got to get it right or else you do it again, Stanley Kubrick style. So it was great. Yeah.
So it got us kind of talking and thinking a little bit about, and we were interacting with some people in the government space and in the nonprofit space, and we're up there on our own dime, kind of taking some of our time throughout the week to make some contribution, hopefully, to these various transition programs and things to support veterans and military members. And we were talking a little bit about the nonprofit space and sort of where that fits into some of these things and how that is different than the government space and different than the for-profit space, and which things are worth saying yes to and giving your time to, and which things maybe aren't as much. And so And we thought we would talk a little bit this week about kind of some of our interactions in the nonprofit space and what nonprofits kind of do, or what at least they're supposed to do, and then we can share some of our experiences and maybe get into some of this other.
Yeah, so I don't mess it up though. Just what's the 2 or 3 bullet about your role at Team RWB, and then also I'm on the board of the Green Beret Foundation. I've been involved with them for a while and learned a lot about Team RWB through Blayne, but haven't been in the weeds like you have. So
yeah, so I was the first employee at Team RWB, so I was there from the very, very early days until just recently, until this summer, when I rolled off my role as executive director to come over here and work with you. But from kind of the startup phase through where we ended up, which is sort of a mid-size, almost large-size nonprofit, I learned a lot. It was an education because I didn't know anything really about nonprofits going into it, which really I think every business is best learned that way. You just sort of throw yourself into it, and then guess what? You have to figure it out once you're going. But I learned a lot, and I got a lot of hard-earned sort of insights about how nonprofits work and about how the whole space works, because it's not necessarily what you think. I mean, first off, nonprofits are still companies, so you still have to pay your bills and do all those things and function as a business. The only real difference is
wait, and how do you pay your bills?
With money.
Oh, with money.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Got it.
It's weird how that works too. It's like it's legal tender for all debts, public and private. You ever read that on the dollar bill? Yeah, but the only difference officially really between a nonprofit and a for-profit company is that nonprofits cannot distribute profits. They can't distribute funds unless it's to another nonprofit organization. So like the analogy I would use is if you decide to close down GORUCK tomorrow, if after we pay all of our bills and collect all of our debts, if there's any money left over, you could just keep it, or you could give it to whoever you wanted to, or whatever. Whereas at a nonprofit, if you were just to close your doors, if there was any money left, none of that money could be distributed or dispersed to private individuals or anything like that. You'd have to give it all back to another nonprofit. And that's really technically the only difference. But that was pretty easy to learn. The harder things to learn were, how do you actually demonstrate if you're doing any good? How do you even know if you're doing good and accomplishing your mission if you're not making a profit? Like, how do you measure whether or not you're doing that? And how do you know who to work with and who is actually doing good work versus just raising a lot of money? And I don't know, we could go on about this forever, but there are a lot of sort of nuanced portions of the nonprofit space that I think most people are just not aware of because it's hard to understand, frankly. And it's easy just to sort of be lazy and take the top level. I looked at their ratio thing online, or I listened to what my friend said about them, or I saw their commercial on TV, and so, they're good or they're bad, but there's a lot more that goes into it for sure.
Yeah.
So you asked me about my role.
Sorry. So you started out first employee, and as you left, years and years later, where was Team RWB at, and how did you get there?
So that could be a long answer. I'll try to make it short. So I started as the first employee. When I left, there were about 30 employees, and so dollars and cents wise, it went from maybe $300,000 or $400,000 annually to.
Well, probably it went from zero first.
Yeah, or running a deficit.
Yeah.
Mike Irwin's credit card, I think, was probably funding the first run of T-shirts or whatever. But when I left this summer, it's probably more $6, $7, $8 million a year, something like that. So not an incredible, huge nonprofit, but there's still only a tiny, tiny fraction of organizations in America, nonprofits, that raise over $1 million annually. So if your nonprofit's raising over $1 million annually, you're in pretty rarefied air just right there. And then there are a very small handful that are like in the hundreds of millions of dollars range, like the USO, the Wounded Warrior Project. There's some big ones like Susan G. Komen, but that's a very, very small, tiny, tiny percentage of the overall nonprofit space. So, 30-ish employees, $7 or $8 million in revenue. But more importantly, and this is the part where you have to understand if it's even working, is we're at 150 or 60,000 members and a couple hundred chapters in cities all over the country. And then the metric we used to know if we were actually doing any good is we called it unique veteran interactions. So we didn't care as much about how much money we raised. We didn't care as much about how many members we had, how many people that signed up. What we really cared about was how many people were actually getting out of their house and off their couch and showing up for the events that the chapters were hosting on a weekly basis. And UVI, or unique veteran interaction, was just sort of a thing I made up, frankly. I just pulled it out of the air. But it really helped us to know whether or not people were just kind of signing up because they were interested or to get the free T-shirt, or if we were just raising a few more bucks this month, or whether people were actually coming out and participating in their community, which we knew through a fair amount of research that we started doing as well. We knew that if they came out and they showed up and they engaged in exercise and physical and social activity, it was making their life better, or what we called making their life richer, right? We came with a sort of enrichment equation whereby a rich life consists of health, people, and purpose. And so the whole goal of the organization is to give people improved physical, mental, and emotional health, get them connected with more good people, and then to give them that sense of meaning or purpose, whether that's training for a race or just volunteering, that kind of thing.
Okay, so as we transition and talk a little bit more about the difference between entitlement and empowerment, let's start with the problem, right? So, because lots of times, you know, not enough money is not the problem, right? There's tons of money out there. There's tons of money within the veteran space. There's tons of organizations that are looking to spend more money. Either their charter can't support it, or you know.
Yeah, commonly held myth is that there's not enough money in a macro sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So ultimately, you know, you can start to transition into veteran suicide. I mean, ultimately, what people want is that the veterans who have fought the wars are assimilated back into society in a productive and healthy way. And we sort of, you know, make these big, well, at least I do. You say, hey, the greatest generation came back. They all used the GI Bill, and they became great and productive members of society. Now, how do we replicate that today? And so now that we have a lot more money as a society, we're able to donate a lot more money. All these nonprofits are able to thrive, if you will, at least on a total top line dollar amount. At the end of the day, it still has to be about what's the problem and how do we fix it? Because the problem is not money. If money were the problem, then you could just write a veteran a check on the way out, and lots of people would do that, and the problem would go away. But of course, that's not the solution.
Yeah, because that would be an entitlement, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't necessarily do much for empowerment. You know, and there are certainly good programs out there that are cash starved. If you talk to anyone that works at a nonprofit, they'll immediately tell you, like, and you say, what are your biggest challenges right now? They're probably going to say funding, but that's not necessarily true. I mean, in working at Team RWB, I interfaced with a lot of nonprofits out there that they had gotten funding, whether it was from the state or from a philanthropist or from a foundation or whatever. They had money and they had a good idea for a program, but they couldn't do outreach. Like, they couldn't find veterans or convince veterans they needed to come out and actually participate in the program. So their ability to engage with, to find, and to get people to actually do this great program that they built that might have been actually pretty well funded, that is what I saw a lot more of than you might think, were these very well-funded programs. And the government has these programs too, by the way. It's not just the nonprofit space. There are so many, not just well-intentioned, but actually probably pretty good programs out there that are actually being underutilized, not so much underfunded. And both exist, but I saw a lot more lack of awareness of resources and lack of utilization of resources for a lot of reasons, which we could get into, like they don't feel comfortable using the resources, or they feel like they're maybe for somebody else, or the resources just aren't positioned to them in a way that's attractive, and so they don't want to deal with it. But it's not necessarily loss of money.
Come to this job fair, and someone that you don't know, sitting in a suit that you don't like, is going to sit there and look at your paper resume and tell you how messed up it is. And then they might if they haven't completely shamed you through no fault of their own, but because of maybe where you are in your transition, as I've been in mine, then, you know, they might tell you something which, of course, you completely dismiss at this point and just want to do nothing but leave. And so there's kind of a disconnect in a lot of the times between, you know, is this only something that veterans can help other veterans, or, you know, here's this trip, but it feels like entitlement.
Yeah.
Well, that's not for me. I don't need help.
Yeah.
Right. And so it is in the wording, it's in the how it's positioned, and it's in, you know, who else is doing it.
Yeah. So I'd say the biggest measurement for me, and this is, by the way, this is very hard to measure, but not impossible. If I were going to give anybody anything, my measurement of success would always be, how well can you take what I've given you or helped you with, and then use it on your own to go on and be successful and to be completely empowered to, like, the word I would use would be sustainable. Like, is what I'm giving you going to help you sustainably, or is it just going to make you feel better right now? You know, and I think that's one of the things that we always struggle with, and this is on the for-profit side too. But, you know, what's that old kind of cheesy metaphor about, like, if you give someone a fish versus teaching them to fish? I think there's a lot of issue with that, and even a lot of the programs that are designed to sort of teach people to fish, if they're too finite, or if they're too much about kind of getting them, if it's too much about throughput. Like, we trained 50 veterans this week on entrepreneurship, and it's like, well, the thing is, it takes a lot more than a week to learn about entrepreneurship, and it's going to be probably a couple of years before any of these veterans really have a business that's making any real money and sustaining them or feeding their family. So unless it was really damn good for that 1 week, what's the ongoing interaction? What are the things we can do to make sure that people are successful throughout? And I think about that a lot, even with like physical health and wellness. Are we taking them on a ski trip, which is going to, maybe it's the catalyst that ignites them to want to get back and do it.
Sure. I've seen stories where it is the catalyst.
Oh yeah, and I've heard plenty of those. But we have to make sure that we're following up and we're giving them the tools they need to be successful sort of down the road. And but to go all the way back, part of it is you got to get them there in the first place, which I find to be the harder part for most of this. And you brought up, like, how does it look? How does it feel? How does it smell? And if you're worried about funding your next ski trip or funding your next camp or entrepreneurial thing or whatever, are there a lot of cameras there? Are you really eager to capture content and to get testimonials and stuff before the trip's even over? Mm-hmm. Or are you just there to let the veterans or whoever it is you're trying to help enjoy the experience, grow from it, feel empowered by it, and then maybe you follow up with them later? It can be pretty aggressive at times. I've seen some programs where maybe it's a good program, but a lot of the veterans feel uncomfortable because they feel like they're almost being exploited into being like marketing pieces for the next iteration of that same program. And it's hard to blame the nonprofit because they've got to raise money so they can put this thing on, but it's tough, and you've got to figure out where that fine line is, and ultimately you've got to feel comfortable that what you're doing is actually working and be willing to take kind of that long play and say, we know what we do is important, we know it's going to make an impact, and if we can demonstrate that impact down the line, we'll be able to figure out how to get more funds and make it go.
Yeah, so I mean, the entitlement versus empowerment, back to just sort of the meat and potatoes of this, it's a two-way street where you might be entitled to something. I mean,
they're called entitlements, right?
They're called entitlements. Yeah. It's also, I kind of don't like the word much, just maybe it got a little...
The connotation is not very good anymore.
Yeah, it's not very good. It's like, hey, why don't you entitlements are for? It's for the guys, next to the highway sitting there panhandling with their signs, right? I mean, that's the stigma that I had,
sure, at
a minimum, as I was transitioning out. So entitlement programs, no thanks, not interested. Empowerment...
By the way, what's your disability rating?
0.
You don't have one. It's not 0. It's non-existent, right?
I didn't even
you didn't file your claim for your VA benefits.
No, I was appalled by the thought of doing that because that would emit something.
But is that right? So looking back on it, like, is that something you would? You would encourage others to feel that way, or?
No, it's like do as I say, not as I do. Right? You should go. Someone else should go through that.
You should get a physical process when you get out of the military.
Yeah, I probably should have talked about
your medical records to the VA.
Concussions and the broken bones and the like all of those kinds of things. I guess I could have talked about those a little bit more, gotten a physical or something.
Or just submitted your medical records.
I feel great. I felt fine. So that's sort of the problem though with empowerment is that you have to empower yourself first, and that means you have to show up. And that can be scary. So one of the reasons I always loved Team RWB, just from the get-go, is it felt like 0 entitlement. We're not going to write you a check. You have to show up at this thing and go for a run or do some yoga or go for a ruck or just be active. And it's the community element that makes you feel empowered. And once you have that in your life, like once your house is good, you can go out into the world and do awesome stuff. If your house is in shambles and your foundation's weak, you're not going to get very far. It's just how it works. So, I think that then from the perspective of civilians, you say, well, I want to help, and I don't really know how to talk or how to put myself in a position with a veteran to where I can actually add value, so I'll write a check. And that's great, it's important. So it is, however, there's more nuance. Yeah. There's more nuance to this where it takes more of us to sort of blur that line a little bit so that what people need when they need it in the veteran community are able to get it and not feel like it's a handout.
Yeah, so you'll be totally shocked to hear me say this, but I really think it's like a bell curve, like everything else. I mean, I think if you have empowerment on one end and entitlement on the other end, there's a big sweet spot in the middle whereby you can use your entitlements, the things you've earned, or what I would call earned benefits, right? Maybe we like that better than entitlements.
Yeah, words matter.
Yeah, so I would say you have earned benefits, and you using those and leveraging those earned benefits, the right amount of them can make you feel empowered. Like you and I both used the post 9/11 GI Bill, and we both went to business school, and we've both used our degree, or at least our experience at business school, to go on and try to do some things in the world and at least make life good for our families and for us, right? But so I would think of it like this. At this end, if it's purely entitlement, I think there's almost like, well, let's think of it this way. There's too little and too much. How about that? So at this end where there's too little, there's just too few benefits, like we're not doing enough to support people who have given a lot to our country and certainly deserve their earned benefits, whether it's education, healthcare, and those kinds of things, right? So if we're all the way at this end of the spectrum and we're giving veterans, military members nothing, that's probably not good. Like there's the story of Howard Schultz, the founder of Starbucks. His dad was a World War II veteran, came back, lived in East Brooklyn, was like an elevator operator, a construction worker or something, got injured on the job. There was, by the way, there were no social safety nets back then hardly, so there was no workman's comp, there was no nothing, and it effectively ended his working life. There was nothing for him back in those days, right? So that's a pretty hard upbringing. When your dad gets hurt on the job, there's no workman's comp, there's no VA benefits, no nothing. World War II veteran, now they're stuck, and now the kids have to go to work in East Brooklyn to put food on the table. That's probably not enough. That's not very empowering when kids can't go to school because they've got to go to work and that kind of thing, right?
We need to have some of these talks at tax season because you start to feel a little bit better about your taxes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, some of these social safety net programs are a big, not to get like political because that's not what this is about, but we have a lot in our country now that helps people when they're down, and we didn't always have that, and I'm very happy that we have these, and I'm happy to pay my taxes knowing that there's not going to be a war veteran that comes back, gets hurt on his job, and then is like shit out of luck. Like that's not what we want. So if you're giving people nothing, especially when they've earned something, that is not empowering. Because if you're worried about putting food on the table, if you're worried about keeping the lights on, you're not really empowered to do anything other than just try to survive. Mm-hmm. And that's not where we want anybody, right? So we create some earned benefits that allow people to, have that foundation of their house in order, and hopefully to accelerate them to be able to do some better things. However, once you've passed that sweet spot of like making sure your health care, your injuries are taken care of, your mental and emotional health, your basic education, that kind of stuff, there's probably another end of the spectrum where we're giving too much. That's what I would say. So if you're just giving people mortgage-free home, free car, free trips, free everything, that's also, in my opinion, not particularly empowering either. That's when you're starting to create entitled, basically entitled babies who get to the point where they just expect everything to be given to them. They expect to be treated specially. In a lot of cases, it's not really their fault because it's all they've ever known from the time they sort of took off the uniform. I don't think that's empowering either. And eventually that dries up, by the way. And now here you are, you're a 32-year-old man who maybe has an injury and you've had things for 6 or 8 years really given to you, but you haven't been empowered to show up yourself and really value your education, to value your job or your work prospects. And now what?
Or to build a community around you that wants to go do the things that make you happy.
Right, you're expecting everyone to pick up the phone and call you. I dealt with a lot of this, not just at Team RWB, but just working with veterans in general. I got a lot of hurt feelings reports from people saying like, man, you used to contact me more often and I would come out and do things, but no one's called me in a month. And it's like, man, on one hand, I feel terrible because if you need someone to reach out to you and I've failed you in that, like, God, I feel terrible. But then it's like, hey man, you got 150,000 members and I can't text everybody every day. So at what point does it become at least partially your responsibility to reach out and say, hey man, just checking in, or to say, hey, I don't really feel like it today, but I'm gonna come to the workout or to the running group and check in with some friends. Like, it's a difficult balance to strike, but I think we're not doing anybody a favor if what we're teaching them through our actions is that everyone's gonna hold your hand every step of the way and you're just gonna be heaped upon to where you're not gonna have to do crap for yourself. That's not empowering either. And like, it's the same, like, not to make the direct comparison, but it's the same, like you're raising kids, right? I'm raising kids. there's a sweet spot between giving them nothing and saying like, fend for yourself, right? That wouldn't be good parenting. That's not empowering to your kids. But you certainly see kids that are getting spoiled that aren't having to like clean up their dishes after dinner, that aren't having to, help out with chores around the house, that aren't having to be accountable for their homework or whatever. That's going to yield a bad result ultimately. Maybe not today. Might feel fine today, and we might feel good as parents about giving little Johnny everything he ever wants. But how's that going to work out in the long run? Yeah. It's the same with any class of people that are being helped by nonprofits or social benefits. You got to figure out where the sweet spot is, and it can be very tricky. So I'll admit that, but the work's got to be done to stay in that zone, I think.
So in terms of sort of the nonprofit space, or just frankly the veteran space, like what is the problem? What's the problem that a nonprofit or beyond should address?
It's too hard. It's not the problem. I mean, like you said, there are a vast array of challenges that people are coming up against. I think if we want to try to like summarize what we're doing well versus what we're not doing well, I think that finding that balance between having good, clean information for them on the front end, which is part of what you were working on at VA, like giving them good, empowering information up front, and with that is
turn your physical in.
Yeah, with that I think are good, clear expectations. That I think is where we've missed over the years, is to say, hey, this is what you can reasonably expect from DoD, from the VA, from the state, whatever, in terms of helping you to be successful in your transition, which we all want. Here is what is expected of you in that same process, so that you can be successful in your transition. And by the way, here are some expectations you might want to consider for life in general, like everything's not going to be perfect when you get out of the military. Just because there's no more deployments and no one's shooting at you anymore, it's not going to be perfect. I think when I think about my own transition, which in many ways went well, but in other ways not so well, the mismanagement or just sort of complete naivete about my expectations is what really was the hardest for me, because I just felt like, oh man, this is going to be great. Like I don't really need any of that anymore. Kind of like you, I'm like, I don't need to take advantage of any of these earned benefits, and things are going to be so awesome. Yeah, it's going to be easy for me. Oh yeah, and by the way, the guys on my team that got banged up, spent time in Walter Reed, like they need benefits, but not me. But more broadly, it was just the management of my expectations. So I think wherever you fall, this is where the nuance comes in, but wherever you fall on that spectrum of whether you're expecting the world or whether you're expecting to get nothing and be happy with it, having good information about what is available to you, but also what your expectations should be in the process, I think is where we miss. And like everything in life, whether it's like in your marriage or in your workplace or whatever, clear and frequent communication is pretty clutch, and we could certainly do better about that.
Yeah. So in terms of expectations, my big point to the however many, I think they said hundreds of thousands of veterans that would get some part of the message was, like, I expect veterans to remain a cut above. And so I've been in the transition process. It was rough for a bit. So it wasn't like this, actually. It was more a downward curve. And then
for like 2 days, though, it was up.
Yeah,
like, woohoo!
Oh, yeah.
There's the 2 days where you drive off post for the last time. You're like, see you later, I'm all set. Like, no more of that. But then...
Yeah, and so, but then you sort of eventually figure out all this great education, all this great sort of perspective that you have in teamwork and leadership and communication and work ethic and discipline and all these things that make you a dream candidate for an employer. It takes you a little bit of time to find that, but you have to find that. That's sort of on you. And you have to do first the things that make your house secure, make your house stable. So for me, that was getting back into exercise and rucking and running and doing all that stuff. And at the end of that, though, the goal is not to say, oh, okay, you're just normal now. That's not the goal. That's not sort of the American way either, by the way. The American way is
just going to work hard to be normal.
Here's the goal, and you're expected to be up here. And I hold Americans in America to that same thing. It's just the veteran community, there's so much more to give based upon the consistency of the training and the experiences, that the expectations should be higher.
Yeah, so I would say this to any military member or veteran, like my experience in the Army basically taught me that the worse it sucked, the more we liked it, or at least the more we bragged about it and felt good about it. Nobody wanted to be in the platoon that had it easy. You know, what did everyone argue about or talk about when they were in the military?
Last hard class.
We were the last hard class. I was the last hard class to go through Ranger School. It's crazy to me that it worked this way, but somehow, I'm like Forrest Gump. I was in the last hard class at West Point. I was in the last hard class at the Q course. I went to the last hard class at Ranger School. Like, mine was the last hard class. Every single course I've been to, I was in the last hard jump master class, all of them.
Yeah.
You know? But we want to brag about the challenge. We want to feel good about how hard it was. We don't want to look back and be like, man, I was in the easy squad and I feel great about that. I really got over. You didn't want that while you're in uniform. And so you're going to be faced with some challenges when you leave the military as well. But I don't understand why you would look at all the things you went through, all the adversity that you faced, you know, in your
all the good stuff.
Yeah, like you know, in your military unit, on your deployments, whatever. Everybody wanted to be in the thick of it. I remember being downrange, by the way, and having a very young and naive approach to things. But like, I would be pissed if the other platoon got in a firefight. If it was the other scout platoon in our recon troop, if they were outside the wire and we were back inside the wire for whatever reason, and they got in contact with the enemy, I would basically be like humping my commander's leg to get out and go. Like, I'm sure they need a QRF right now. I'm 100% confident they need reinforcements. Because we just want to get out and get in the fight. We didn't want to be back and like, man, I want to take it easy back here. I'm so glad I'm back here in my hooch with this ice cream cone while second platoon is getting shot at. Like, no, you never felt that way. And so, you know, same with everything else in life. Don't now all of a sudden look back on all your hardship and be like, man, it sucks, woe is me, why do I have to go through this? Someone owes me something. Like, no, use that as a springboard to be proud of, first off, and then know that it's made you better. You should be proud of that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not to discount the difficulties, and I know you had many that you had to deal with from loss and really absolute low points in life, and it doesn't discount the need for adversity, continued adversity in your life. What it does is it highlights the need for community. Highlights the need.
Right, because who did you brag about all that hardship with when you were in the squad bay, you know, or in the? Yeah.
It wasn't on your Instagram account, by the way, or whatever. That's not what the currency is there. It's not about, you know, look at what I did in social media. It's about the guys around you knowing what went on and what really happened. And so, you know, the adversity the challenges that you can look to get away from of 5 a.m. wake ups and all that stuff, you know, that kind of adversity doesn't have to be at 5 a.m., by the way, but that kind of adversity is what brings people closer together. And then, you know, insofar as you're looking to empower yourself, you need to go back to the things, and this is true for veterans and civilians alike, you need to go back to the things that allow you to feel comfortable within a community that you're proud to share the time and the experience with.
You know, we should start a nonprofit. It occurred to me while we were sitting here.
Another?
Yeah, another, because we need more nonprofits. So do you remember? You were never in the big army, so maybe you don't. But one of the most popular.
We ran by them on.
Yeah, you ran by them on our dens, and like, suckers, hot, hot, hot. One of the most popular kind of pastimes in the Army when you have a lot of downtime, which you do on deployments and, you know, in the field and stuff, is to play spades. You ever play spades?
Yeah.
Okay. So you get 4 guys at the table, you know, and you throw spades. Those are some of my best memories of being in the Army, especially when I was in the big Army and you're like at JRTC or NTC and you're just like, oh, so much time to kill. You have all this great fun, like talking trash, playing spades. We should start a nonprofit like Spades for America, or like Spades for the Troop. How many of you soldiers out there, former soldiers, are still playing spades? Probably not that many.
No.
You should start playing spades again. We should all do this. We could do it right here at this table. It would be awesome.
Yeah.
So Spades for the Troops or something.
But can we do it on our apps from our rooms?
No. That's the thing. You have to sit around the table. So step 1 of Spades for the Troops is you have to lock your phone in your car. Then you can come inside. It's like the way my dad played cards back in St. Louis in like 1970. You had to like check your gun in a shoebox at the door, and then you could come inside and play cards, right? You had to have at least 2 $200 bills, and you couldn't bring your gun. Those, you know, these are basic rules, right? So you got to leave your phone in your car, and then you have to come sit at the table and play with actual, you know, like bicycle cards. Or here's the other thing we do. We could make cards that are military themed, right? Like the old Saddam, Iraq.
That would be awesome.
Ace of Spades, right? So we get some of those. You know, I don't know, whoever wants to invest in this, go ahead. Starbucks, somebody, we'll put your logo on the cards too. We'll get the Saddam, the, what was the Chemical Ali? We'll go get him back on the card, right?
Yeah.
And
Chemical Ali.
yeah, and remember who the guy was like from the Ministry of Information that was just always.
Yeah, there's Uday and Kusei as well.
Yes, oh great. So
Yeah.
we'll get the deck of cards, we'll ship them out to veteran Spades clubs. You have to lock your phone in your car, you come in and you play Spades and you can talk trash about all the hard and exciting stuff you've been through, and at least you'll have each other and you'll know that it's going to be. Is that right, or does that make sense?
We might beta test that before we actually fill out all the paperwork and stuff.
We'll work on it right here at GORUCK.
Like you said, a new app coming to you, right?
So we should do this. We'll beta test it. We'll invite the Team RWB chapter in Jacksonville and some vets here in Jacksonville. We'll have like a Spades night instead of like poker night.
Great.
We'll have Spades night. The Budweiser will be free as always.
Yes.
You can come here and hang out.
The beer's free, freedom isn't.
That's
Boom.
right.
How do you like that?
Phones have to stay in your car, and we'll just throw Spades for a couple hours, and we'll see if we can't solve the world's problems.
Bet we can.
I bet we can.
That's empowerment right there.
Have we discredited everything we said up to that point, or is it?
I don't know.
One of the things I want to talk about before we get too far off track is this idea that, so nonprofits have a place, right? I mean, by definition, just to kind of go back to the very beginning, nonprofits or non-governmental organizations are intended to fill a need in the marketplace that is not or will not be attended to by the government or the private sector. And there are such things that exist in the world. Like, there are just some problems that need to be solved, that there's either not the right incentives or not the right capabilities for the government or the private sector to solve it. And so that's where nonprofits are technically, like doctrinally, supposed to come in, right? A lot of nonprofits, unfortunately, people, they're just like their pet project. You know, you make enough money, or you're not sure what to do right now.
You want to fund another app that people don't want, but you've got the money, so.
So you just make, So
it's like the best of intentions, but you have to start with a problem, a real problem that people will actually want.
Well, it's the same. So the litmus test for me would be, and I've said this to a lot of people. I've tried very hard to talk a lot of people out of starting nonprofits, and only by using this litmus test. If you were going to start a for-profit business, if you were going to take your own money, not like try to enlist other people to donate money, but if you had to take, 50, 100 grand of your savings, or borrow that money from friends and family or the bank, if you were going to take $100,000 of money that your ass was on the line for, whether it was your cash or you borrowed it, to start a business, any kind of business, what kind of process would you go through before you launched that business? Would you just do it because you felt like it? Like, here's a silly example, but I think it illustrates the point. If you love pizza, you love everything about pizza. Since you were a kid, you loved pizza, you know a lot about pizza, whatever. You grew up in Brooklyn, you went to Italy, blah, 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 right? And you just want to start a pizza place because you love pizza. And it was going to cost $100,000 to get your place going. Would you just do it because you love it and I'm just going to put it wherever here in town? I'm just going to do whatever kind of pizza I want? No, you wouldn't. I mean, not unless you're an absolute knucklehead. You would not. Especially if you only had $100,000 to spend and that was your life savings. You would probably look around town and think about what other pizza places exist. You'd probably think about what kind of pizza you're going to make and how it's unique to the other pizza that's available. What hours are you going to be open? Are you going to do like family dining and do like buy the slice so the drunk kids can get it coming out of the bar? Like, you're gonna think about
that.
Oh, that's a great business, by the way. Golly, the late night like taco or pizza business.
The taco trucks have taken over though.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, I haven't seen pizza trucks. Do they have pizza trucks?
I'm sure it's a truck. It's usually like a hole in the wall kind of thing.
Yeah, but I'm saying, is there?
Biggie's Pizza here in the
but
beach.
it's not. It's limited by location. That's what I'm saying. The taco trucks, because they
can move, right?
They just follow wherever the the drunk college kids, wherever's the in crowd,
and they just put it on Twitter
that night. And then there they are. They're right there next to it.
Which is exactly the point, because they've done sort of the market research,
and
they've figured out what the demand is or what the need is in this case, and they've crafted their whole business very carefully, by the way, to serve the actual need, to make sure that it's providing some unique value to the market. Because if it's not, by the way, no one's going to come. They're just going to say, great, new pizza place. They might come for the first weekend or something if you pump it up, and then they're not going to go. If it's not better, if it's not different,
if you pay them to come, then
convenient.
they'll come, but that's about it.
Right, and so this is...
that doesn't work very well either.
This is the exact process you have to go through if you want to start a nonprofit. You have to treat it as if it were any other business, because it is, by the way. And just because you think you can go out and pull at someone's heartstring and get them to donate their money to, so that you can have something to do, or you can feel good about yourself, or even if you're, you want to serve a community that you really care deeply about, which is, the case most of the time.
Yeah.
You still, whether you care deeply about serving veterans or curing cancer or whatever, you better take the time to understand what is currently available out there. Who is currently working on this problem already? Is it adequate? Is it inadequate? If so, where are the inadequacies and where is the problem, the need that needs to be filled? And then how are you going to create something that uniquely fills that need? And if you haven't been through that process, then you can't start one. You responsibly should not, in fact, because then you're just creating white noise and you're creating confusion in the space, which is especially true amongst veterans. There's just so much to choose from, and you're creating confusion eventually among donors. So now you're diverting funds potentially that could be going to something that's working, to some new thing. And I could go on for days about this, but I think you just can't start a nonprofit unless you know how you're uniquely going to serve the market, which is leads me to what I was going to ask you about, which is there are a lot of other ways, by the way, to solve social problems and fill needs that exist that don't involve starting a nonprofit. There are a lot of for-profit organizations out there, a lot of companies that have figured out ways to either have sort of a baked-in social mission, kind of like a la combat flip-flops, so they're putting Afghan women to work and then donating proceeds back to put Afghan girls to school, and they're a for-profit company, by the way. We know those guys, they're great guys, and their company makes money, and that's great.
Griff, I've never actually met you one of these days.
Oh man,
we'll solve the problems of the world.
Yeah,
Spades, solve the problems of the world.
Me, you, Griff at Murphy's in Old Town, and we'll, enough beers, and we'll solve all the world's problems.
Yeah.
But you can bake it into your whole thing, and it can be kind of what you're about, or you can grow your business, take some of your profits, either donate to charity or have some other sort of mission, or what we do that's a little different is we facilitate these opportunities to raise money for Green Beret Foundation or Pets for Patriots or Team RWB, and provide services to have leadership camps and stuff that come through here. But there are a lot of ways to do it. I mean, even wherever you fall on this is less important than the message. But Patagonia just this week, they put on the front page of Patagonia.com this whole thing about the president stealing your land and trying to get a petition signed and really trying to combat a social issue that they think is important. And again, I don't care whether you think that issue is important or not. The point is, they're a for-profit company and they're willing to put their stones on the line and say, look, we believe in this more than we believe in turning off a couple of customers that take the opposite side of this issue.
I mean, there's plenty of great businesses also just built on divide and conquer, right?
Sure.
I mean,
oh yeah.
If you're all things to all people, then you're nothing to no one.
Yeah.
So, they've got their values and they stick by them. It's good.
Yeah. So there are plenty of ways to make a contribution that don't necessarily involve being in a nonprofit, I guess, is the bigger point.
It just sounds so pure,
It does, but ironically though, there are for-profit companies that are, so let me just ask you this. Things that are important to America, job creation. Small businesses do that,
Yeah.
yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Families climbing the socioeconomic ladder, important to America or not?
Very.
Okay, so who gets to do that? People that start and build successful small businesses primarily, right? I mean, there's a lot of, how about commerce in a city, new businesses coming to cities, so people can, also important. So there are a lot of ways that you can actually contribute without going to some sort of charitable mission too. These things are really important, and I don't think
it's just
feel bad about
everything.
them. It's not evil.
There's no nuance. Bankers are all greedy. Nonprofit workers are all altruistic. It's sort of the young startup band is full of integrity, but once they sell too many records, then they've sold out. It doesn't.
How many records is that, by the way? I would love to know. What's the tipping point when
is selling?
Sellouts?
Selling is not the same as selling out.
If you sell out a show, does that make you a sellout? I never understood.
It's just easier for us to sort of come up with labels, and then the label becomes what that person represents. Not the person stops representing it, and the label becomes what represents them to us in our brains. And it just, as a for-profit business, the mission is more important than the money. And yet, at the same time, that's also self-serving to the mission of GORUCK, because if money were the mission, it wouldn't work. Yeah. So it's sort of, it's an extension of our way of life, and you can smell a fake out there. I mean, Patagonia is not a fake.
No.
And I respect that about them. And I want the air to be clean. I want waters to be clean and stuff. That sounds great, At the same time, it's not sort of GORUCK's mission to be the Patagonia outdoor. I mean, because all the other outdoor brands now, every single one of them, I think, donates to the environment. And if you don't, you're basically a leper within that community.
Well, Patagonia, and this was not their intention, but they've basically made it now par for the course. Like that's just like the cost of doing business now, and really in the outdoor space. If you're not meaningfully involved in environmental conservation and some of these causes as an outdoor company, then you're just like.
So outdoor retailer used to be in Salt Lake. It was in Salt Lake City last year when I went, and the local legislator did something that was viewed by them as anti-environmental, and so Patagonia got with Arc'teryx, the two big giants in the outdoor.
Arc'teryx is Canadian, right? They're a Canadian company?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And they both, they're competitors, but at some level you want the whole space to grow, right?
Grow the pie.
And so they came together and said, we're not going back to Salt Lake City, we're going to do it in Denver now. So, I mean, they just uprooted this enormous convention. Yeah. Thousands of people, however many millions and millions of dollars in downtown Salt Lake City. And downtown Salt Lake City, first off, is awesome. It's beautiful.
Surprisingly awesome, by the way. Salt Lake City is a good-ass city, yeah.
It's beautiful. It's also small. And so you can feel it when everyone is there or could feel it, I guess, for outdoor retailer. And, Colorado just said, hey, we love the environment, come to Denver. And they said, yep, that's where we're going. So this year's outdoor retailer, which is next month, I'm not going, thankfully, is in Denver. I'm not a big conventions guy. Okay,
you don't
walk
say.
Around. I love meeting some people there, but usually the best thing. So the best part about OR last year was Joe and I went. So I just feel
Joe
this.
is the guy that owns the
KL Manufacturing that builds all of our stuff, and he's kind of more like me than less. And we're both there, and there's just so many people trying to. I mean, first off, the interesting thing is that you show up for this huge environmental fest, and there's literally like 1,000 bins of magazines that are free, right? It's like, okay, I wonder how many trees that took, Like they're just everywhere, right? But it's the things that you remember. Anyway, you walk around, and it's just you're dealing with all these people, and there's just so much stuff there, And a lot of it just really sucks. So if you want to do something right for the environment, build fewer things that are better, that will last longer.
Oh, man.
And so this sort of disposable stuff.
But you get to vote, right? So if you're a company that makes whatever outdoor gear and apparel, whatever you're making, you have a vote that contributes to that. That matters. I mean, so before we started the cameras, we were talking about this documentary on. There's a documentary on Netflix I think it's called The True Cost. Have you seen this? No?
I haven't seen it. I'm going to go watch it, though.
Check this out. So there is a Netflix documentary called The True Cost. I believe that's the name of it. If you Google that, you'll definitely find it. But it's basically about the fast fashion industry and how there's not like 4 seasons a year. There's 52 seasons a year now. And we basically, I think we might have talked about this last week, about treating durables as consumables. Like you're basically taking things that used to be meant to be used for a long time and meant to be a durable item, and you just use it as a consumable item. So like the $4 T-shirt, whatever. But the documentary gets into sort of where this clothing is made, and like factories in Bangladesh, and just the working conditions and the people that are actually the faces of who's making this clothing, right? And it talks about some of the environmental impact of just this constant churn of stuff that we're buying that we don't need. And you and I have never like stood on the table and like try to pretend to be, environmental protectionists or any of this, but it all matters. Like I've used this story before. My parents are both reasonably conservative politics. You know what I mean? They would certainly never consider themselves to be like environmentalists or that stuff. But I think my parents have the lowest carbon footprint of any two people I've ever met on the planet. And why that matters to me, and why I think this is relevant to GORUCK, is because they don't run around waving their flag. They don't spend a lot of energy telling everybody how environmentally conscious they are, how low a carbon footprint they have.
It's because it's a
the way
left-wing issue at that point,
right? Because they don't even want to be involved in that, and they don't even consider it that way. They reduce, reuse, and recycle stuff. It's crazy. They don't throw stuff away that can be used again. They have a planter box garden in their backyard complete with a compost
just
bin.
Like my grandparents. They had the same stuff. I'd open the refrigerator and I could hear my grandfather across the house. What are you looking for in there?
You're trying to air condition the house. Yeah. So they don't hardly ever run the AC. But they don't drive a Prius. They don't have these things that are sort of like emblems of environmentalism. They don't have all the little badges and stuff so they can feel good about themselves. They just live that way. They just don't consume. They don't buy stuff they don't need. They don't use energy that they don't need. They live that life. They sort of walk the walk. And I think, for us, I think that's kind of where we fall. So we manufacture our clothes in the U.S. at KL in Spokane to people that make a good wage, and the stuff
that went up 13% based on the last election. So we get all these things about our stuff's really expensive. So okay, newsflash. Every time GORUCK launches a new piece of something, anything, someone is going to say, oh my God, that's so expensive, right?
Well, to be fair, it is expensive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's sort of...
In absolute terms, it's expensive.
It's very expensive. It's just, the outrage sort of loses its... What's the right word? The outrage kind of loses its oomph when every single time that's expensive. I mean, if we were sitting here in the Taj Mahal laughing and pointing fingers at you saying, oh my God, look at these idiots that are buying all this stuff, that might be a slightly different story.
Well, it's expensive for different reasons though, right? So it's one thing to make a $4 t-shirt and sell it for $30 because it has the right name on it. Or you've done some bullshit marketing campaign.
And it's got 15 middlemen.
Yeah, you get LeBron James to wear it, and so now suddenly your $4 T-shirt is worth $30.
You get him to wear it because you paid him a lot of money.
You pay him to wear it, right? So look, that's a completely legitimate way of marketing, advertising, and promotion to do business. Mm-hmm. But it's one thing to say, man, that I won't even say a brand, but that brand of sweatshirt or whatever is expensive, but it only costs them $2 or $3 to make, and they're spending the rest on promotion and endorsement and all that kind of stuff. It's another thing for it to be expensive because look, if you want to, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if you want a pair of Simple Pants for $40, I can't do that for you ever because it literally costs us more than that to make the pair of pants. And so, they're expensive because they're expensive as hell to make because they're made of better materials and made by better craftsmen who also, by the way, make a higher wage. And I don't want you to buy 10 pair. Literally, I don't. Like, have 2 or 3, have coyote and gray, maybe navy blue, and you're good. I mean, I wear the same 2 pairs of Simple Pants every day, basically to work. And now that the weather's cooled off, this half zip.
I brought
fewer better things.
I brought 2 pairs up on my trip to DC. I only wore 1 pair the whole time.
You're probably the ones you're wearing right now.
Yeah, they are, because I just showed up from
the third day in a row
last night. And so the funny thing was that Garrett Cathcart from Team RWB was there. And we met him in Old Town, and we went out and solved the problems of the world a bit. And then there was a little,
there was a chemistry experiment too. Remember the Joe Quinn?
Oh yeah.
The Joe Quinn is half Guinness, half Budweiser.
Yep.
The Irish American. Doesn't work as well though. There's something about the gravity of it doesn't. I don't know. The Budweiser just sucks in the Guinness. I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, sidebar.
And so there was a little tussle on the sidewalk, with Garrett and me, and I'll just say this: one of us had $200 designer jeans on, and it wasn't this guy, right? One of us had Simple Pants on, and it was this guy. And one of us left that little tussle with a big hole in his pants, and it wasn't this guy.
You both had a swollen knee, but only one of you had a hole in your pants.
My knee's pretty jacked up. I want my perfect knee back, Garrett, and I want it now.
Bitch sleeves.
Bomber wants me to wear bitch sleeves. That's probably not going to happen yet.
That's funny. There's something about that bar, because the last time I was at that bar was with Matt Griffin from Combat Flip Flops, and we also had a tussle on the sidewalk.
It happens,
right
man.
afterwards. I don't know.
Yeah.
Although he was wearing flip flops, I'm pretty sure at the time.
Yeah,
and
imagine that.
Neither of us ripped a hole in our
jeans. The flip flops guys got to wear flip flops.
No, in fact, I was wearing a suit. So I was in DC and drove up to Philadelphia to go to the Democratic National Convention to speak on some panel or something, and JJ was at the Republican National Convention saying the same thing to some other audience. And I drove back from Philly and was going to go back to my hotel, and someone said, hey, there's a bunch of people at Bunker Labs. You should come by and hang out. And so I just, with my bag on my shoulder, jumped out of the car with my suit still on. And I went into this thing, and I just got endless shit from Matt, who's wearing like jeans and a pair of flip-flops. Like, hey, nice suit, sell out. And I'm like, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. We should probably fight on the sidewalk later.
Yeah. And then you did, that's great. Yeah. So ultimately, Garrett and I, we had fun, but my pants won. $200 designer jeans, no. Big old hole in them. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
All right, so wrapping this part up, and then we'll take some questions, is all veterans are not like the dude in Hurt Locker. We'll have to have a whole episode on that, okay?
I was supposed to bring that up.
It's not where, this is not the case where everyone's just got to go back to war or else they're completely broken, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to harp on this till the day I die. There's awesome potential amongst veterans. However, the main thing is that entitlement doesn't work. It doesn't work. That's different than a legitimate need.
Entitlement with a capital E.
Yeah, and so legitimate needs do happen. You get injured, you need special help. There's all sorts of needs, but this feeling of entitlement, that's what really doesn't work. So as you sort of, 'tis the season, and I know the nonprofit world,
tax season coming up.
The nonprofit world gets inundated with a lot of donations and stuff like that toward the end of the year, and this is really go time for them.
Yeah.
Is look at my recommendation is look at the places that empower veterans and go with those kinds of places, because I think it's more of a wholesome approach, and by that I mean it's good for the veteran and it's good for the nonprofit, right? It's good for it's good for the person donating it as well, and
it's good for America.
It's good for America.
Empowered veterans are good for America.
Yeah, I mean, the return that you're going to get out of veterans is strong. It's just got to get over this hump. That's really what it is, and it's not through entitlement, it's through empowerment. So the types of places, Team RWB and others that are out there that do empower veterans, that's
where your $50 check needs to go.
That's my take.
Bomber, do you have questions?
I do.
Questions
Well,
this
come
week?
on over here.
Get in there.
You wrote them all down, all chicken scratch style.
I did. I had
man.
to today. I messed up last time.
All right.
All right, you can just sit right there on the There we go.
Okay, going commando, always, never, or is there a time and place?
Always.
I would lean toward always. I would say not always. Like at the gym.
Almost always.
Yeah, at the gym I'd like to have like some support. Otherwise, commando. Unless you have, I guess if you have shorts on with a built-in, does that count as commando or no?
No, that doesn't count.
Okay, so at the gym, no, otherwise fine. Yep.
Okay, Alan Grant asks this. He said sometimes he feels inadequate as a civilian, but he's always there for his buddies that are veterans. And he's always down to buy the beer, come over with some beer and talk to them. His question was, what else do vets need and what irritates them?
That's a long question. He asked what do vets need and what irritates
so
them.
if you just want them to sit around and tell war stories all day, like treat them normally, right? Like treat them like they're one of the guys. I mean, and that's sort of, hey, if you're gonna go do something, invite them like they're a person. Mm-hmm. If you treat people like people nicely, hey, we're these kinds of universal things like, hey, we're grilling out in our backyard. We're gonna have some people over. Would you like to come? Right? It's sort of the philosophical equivalent of the greatest pickup line ever. Hey, my name is fill in the blank. Right? I mean, it doesn't have to be so complicated. And so, what I don't really want though is for civilians to feel inadequate because they didn't serve in the military. I think there's a million ways to serve.
To do anything.
No, there's a million different ways to serve. And some of them are completely unofficial, meaning, you're a good member of your community. The list goes on and on and on, from actual civilian service jobs, teachers and, fire and LEO and all of those kinds of things, paramedics. I mean, that's real work, that's real service.
Yeah,
So-
also all the other things that are important for our society to exist, like laying sewer pipe. There's a million jobs that those of us that live these nice, comfortable lives couldn't do if people didn't do that. Yeah, so there's a lot of ways.
It takes all of us, and we do have to. America, insofar as we need to grow as a nation, and we always will, to be America. I mean, we need people that work hard. We need people that are dedicated to all different varieties, from the financial markets to the service industry to laying pipe. So it takes all kinds. So I guess what I'm getting at is
Nick's back here chuckling because he thinks that laying pipe is now civil service.
You're welcome, Nick.
It could be to
Get
somebody.
after it.
I don't know.
So it's this feeling of inadequacy is probably Nick feels that way. That's why he's that's why he's chuckling so much.
We're having a nice little impromptu psychology session about Nick's
pipe in the oil field.
and Nick's inadequacy and
play
his need.
stupid games, win stupid prizes, Nick.
Okay. What else?
Okay, I'm ready to go down with the mean tweets for the.
Yes. Let's hear them.
Okay, so for context,
Yes.
Rucking sweatpants were released. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, we almost sold out, I think.
Right, Rucking sweatpants came out yesterday. They're badass, by the way. But there were plenty of people that had things to say about
And for the first
Rucking
time
sweatpants.
ever, Facebook was more brutal than Reddit.
That's got to be the first time ever in history on any topic. The Reddit comments were.
Hey, I'm going to go out there and say these are my favorite new thing that we've built all year. So, I'm probably not much of a man, though. I also wear my UGG power slippers at home, right? Like a boss, okay? So, if you're afraid that the paparazzi's going to show up in your house, and if you're wearing your UGG power slippers and your Rucking sweatpants like I do every single night, if that's going to really throw your game off, then, these are probably not for you. They're awesome. They're awesome, I'll tell you that.
So let's get to the mean tweets
Let's get
about
to it.
that.
Okay, Rick, this is
Here we go.
David Sinbile. Hope I said that
Oh,
right.
we're naming names. That's good.
Oh,
Put your
yeah,
name
yeah,
on
we
it.
are.
If you're going to
Yeah.
say it, put your name on
He
it.
said, nope, jump the shark on this. My comment is, dude, we're at the beach. Don't put shark voodoo on this.
It's like saying bomb at the airport. You can't say shark at the beach.
Yeah, you can't say shark.
Jump the shark.
You
Okay.
can have a Jaws poster.
I guess what does that mean? Does it mean we've gone too far? Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Jump the
Yeah,
shark?
he said
Okay.
Fonzie jumped the shark and
Okay, the
Got
next
it.
one is Eric Gonzalez. Ill-advised. I think their success is giving them delusions of grandeur and feeding their good idea fairies. Now, what I don't understand, this is just me speaking, is grandeur is one of them rum drinks they make down in the Caribbean.
EUR, right?
I think, yeah, well, that's how I spelled it.
Mean
Well,
tweets with poor grammar and spelling.
Yeah. I mean, so let me break this down. So a lot of the stuff that happens with the apparel, it's like, hey, let me break this down even earlier. I took a pair of sweatpants to Iraq, right? Had a pair for my little hooch.
Like the kind you got in MEPS that said like U.S. Army.
No, not that kind.
$4
The kind that
pair
said
from Bangladesh?
these were sort of basketball Nike sweatpants. And they were just kind of, they just kind of didn't work. They just sort of sucked, basically. There was this sort of mesh stuff and the dirt and sand and all of that stuff. And before you knew it, they just sucked. The drawstring sucked. The elastic sucked. They were sort of like, you seen those like 90-inch blue jean things that...
They're also like the preferred lower body wear for the enemy in Iraq. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
The sandals and the track pants?
Yeah, sandals and the track pants. But so I took a pair to Iraq. I was like, this is great when, a lot of times it was Ranger panties, but when it wasn't Ranger panties, when the AC was kicking in all proper like, right? It was these sweatpants and they sucked. And so it's like, you know what? We got the fabric. I will bet you that a pair of Rucking sweatpants out of this same fabric, would be awesome. And guess what? 8 months of wearing them later, yeah, it's pretty awesome. So that's sort of the delusions of grandeur. Then, hey, it sounded good on Facebook. Bomber wrote it down, and that's awesome.
Also, if you don't want them, don't buy them. That's totally fine too, because we're going to sell out of them anyway. So
Yeah.
it's fine. All right, what else? There's got to be better ones than that, though.
Alec, waiting for the next video blog to upsell the pants. Here it is.
Here it is.
Here it is.
This was Bomber's idea, by the way.
Stephen Wayne, $100 for sweatpants is excessive.
Everything costs too much. Got it. Okay, next.
Okay, Kurt Story, I've been on board with some high prices from GORUCK.
Okay, got it. It costs too much. Got it, Kurt.
But $90 for sweatpants, I'll have what they are smoking.
What? They might have been conceived with a Budweiser or two. I don't think there's any smoking going on,
Okay,
though.
then Kurt Stein said, blah, 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 same thing at Walmart for $8 less, blah, 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 blah. And him and I
Same
had a
thing
bunch
at
of
Walmart.
fun.
No.
Kurt,
No,
you
no.
need to go watch the
Okay,
documentary that I
let-
recommended.
Kurt Story's old school. He's
So
doing well.
same thing at Walmart. So let me break the economics down. So that you're implying then that you can get the same thing for $15, even at, so the first time, okay, let's talk about sweatshops, okay? The first time that your cotton sweatpants made at Walmart for $15,
not made at Walmart,
made by for Walmart
yeah.
in whatever sweatshop, wherever. The first time those cotton sweatpants fail is when the child labor sweats all over them. And they just absorb all of that sweat until forever. They never dry, right? Because that's what sweatpants don't do. You're not supposed to sweat in them.
That's weird.
Right?
Okay.
It's because cotton is the preferred method for things like towels and other things that are highly absorptive, right?
Absorbent.
Absorbent. I'm gonna drink Bomber's beer now. Right? Absorbent, right? So there is more than $15 of fabric costs in these pairs of sweatpants. So you can't, by sort of the laws of economics, buy that pair of sweatpants at Walmart for the same. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Also, feel free. It's totally fine. You get to vote.
Or what you could do is get a pair of cotton ones and then get the fabric yourself and just copy the patterns. I don't know. It's complicated.
What else? This was my
They're expensive. Got it.
You can do better.
This is my favorite, and Lee will appreciate this. Alex Rosenwald. If I wanted a $100 pair of sweatpants, I would just go to Lululemon.
Yes.
Go to what?
Lululemon.
Yeah.
I call it Lululemon.
So Lululemon is the most.
You're wearing a pair of Lululemon shorts right now, aren't you?
No, these are Billabongs.
Billabong. Okay.
Lululemon is one of the most feminine brands in the world. It is a secret, hidden company owned by Victoria's Secret. I'm convinced. That's not yet 100% proven.
Can we not get sued, Jason? Don't say
That's
this.
not
about
yet
Lululemon.
100% proven. But I'm convinced that if you want to wear silk panties, go to Lululemon and buy them. They're called shorts. They're called sweatpants. They're called T-shirts. They're called sweatshirts.
No,
it's just
don't go there
different
because they're
versions.
$100.
They're
They're too
different
expensive.
versions of Victoria's Secret panties for everything that you buy there.
Also not made.
No, they're not made in the U.S. Of course not. It's not an American company, and they're not made in the U.S.
They're not made in Canada either, but that's different.
No.
Just that fact. So
what's
so
up
no
next
on the
besides
sweatpants?
the sweatpants?
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Is
I
that
have
it?
one last thing. I want to shout out for our 2 new versions of Tiger Stripe.
So Bomber is the one that's in sales around here, not Jason and I. Look at this guy.
Yeah.
2 versions of Tiger Stripe. This is Arid Tiger Stripe,
Very nice.
and this is Woodland Tiger Stripe. Which one do you prefer? It's Woodland, isn't it? It's got to be. It's old school. Yeah.
Big Daddy was all lusty-eyed over the Arid today.
I'll post a picture of that
Yeah.
later.
Oh, so one more thing for Reddit, because I read this. It's this thread about
You
how...
read it on Reddit?
It was this big, long thread about how GORUCK has cut costs at every measure, and it's going to cost us infinite amount of sales because the quote false bottom in the laptop. So they're talking about this is the Arid Life version, but there's a false bottom that goes in the laptop compartment. Basically, it's this fabric through here. It doesn't end at the bottom, so that when you set it down-ish on the bottom of the ruck, that there's a little bit of space between it. There's another compartment that's there that's padded, so that in the off chance that you set it down the wrong way, there's still padding associated with it. Now, there's this really, really long thread, and if you've ever heard of the telephone game, it's sort of where, one thing gets said and then it just builds on it, and before, you say,
Everyone's outraged. There's so much outrage.
It's, hey, Johnny's a really nice person, turns into, this communist
sympathizer.
Sympathizer. He's working for the enemy. He hates all these other people. Like, he's probably going to kill you and your family tonight, right? That's sort of what the thread devolved into, that sort of level. I mean, I got really, really confused reading it. And so I sent it to Christian and Jody and Spencer, I think, in Bozeman. And they were like, man, this is one of those things, I feel dumber for having read this entire thing. Now, the problem is it comes in the form of a question, which is completely normal. Hey, I'm comparing this, and has anything changed? So then one person says, I think it's changed, and they're compromising on everything. Their quality standards are going way down. Oh, by the way, the pattern pieces for the false bottom, they've not changed. So there have been other changes made to the rucks designed to make them easier to build at scale more toughly, meaning fewer fail points, right? So there used to be 2 pieces of webbing, and now there's a piece of Cordura with a piece of webbing over the top. Well, it's because when you're sewing it, it's easier for the sewing machine to punch through those 2 layers if the 2 layers are slightly less thick. The fail rate is less. It's no less, right? The fail rate is the same. So, you know, I just see all this, and it was just, it was on my mind. I meant to write something, but I've been, you know, it's been a couple days since I've been on the road. I'm sure it's blown up. I haven't followed the Reddit threads recently in the last couple days, but look, I mean, we're committed to quality stuff. That's really what it comes down to. We're not really all that good at cutting corners. We can always talk about how expensive and how much stuff costs, and you know, we can just come back and say it's great stuff. If you don't like it, if you don't like the style, if you don't like Arid, there's something wrong with you. Arid's life, you know.
Except with that exception, if you don't like
with that exception, there's something wrong with you.
But so I look at these sort of things because it's my job. The cost to build one of these here GR1s, is it more or less now than it was 8 years ago?
More.
Oh, costs more to make one now by a lot. Okay. Hey, what was the retail price on this here GR1? Has it gone up, down, or stayed the same since it was released?
So we have a person whose job is to monitor the rucks that come out. Some large percentage of that involves GR1. There's a lot of people involved in the monitoring of the quality and in all of that kind of stuff. So ultimately, I know what you're getting at. It's because we were talking about this earlier, that next year we might do something where, you know, we say, hey, we're going to offer you GR1 at its introductory price.
Which would be?
$295.
Man, that sounds like a good deal.
You know?
What can you get one for right now?
$295. How does that sound?
Sounds like a good deal.
So, you know, I mean, and
it's no $100 sweatpants, but it seems okay.
The rucks have gotten more consistently tougher because we've enforced the standard.
And more expensive to build.
It's really hard to do the more that you scale, which is, you know, there's lots of ways to do it. You can go overseas. This would probably cost us, I don't know, half or less overseas.
You think so? Half?
Yeah. Yeah, half or less. And so it would cost us half or less.
At what cost? What true cost, I guess?
Well, so yeah, the true cost, I mean, you can't know because quality gets harder to monitor. I mean, it's a different deal.
So this is whatever. This isn't the woe is me show.
No, it's not.
We feel good about it. I guess that's the big thing. Like we're totally comfortable.
Hey, that's $95. This is, I think,
if you don't want one,
$85.
Don't buy one. It's totally fine too. If
oh my God, you broke the GR1.
Oh no.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah. Hey, buy one.
People what happens when one comes to scars cost-wise for GORUCK.
Oh, and if you happen to do something awesome and tear it up, then we fix it. That's
for free.
For free.
That's weird.
Now yes, there's always a caveat or two. If you burn it like down to a thread, which we've seen, and said, oh, we literally got a note that said, this burned in a house fire. Here's a picture of it.
There's one that burned in a plane crash.
There's one that burned in a plane crash. I mean, God bless you, put it on your insurance tab. If you take a chainsaw to it, it'll probably bust it up pretty good. Zippers are the weak part. You cannot flip it upside down, smash a ruck plate on a zipper, the zipper fails and send it to us. We're not going to fix that zipper. We'll shut the laptop compartment closed if it's... Basically, we're not in the business of being hated, and if you guys are a little outraged by $95 rucking sweatpants, then that's all right. Let's talk about it. Tell all your friends. Tell all your friends how outraged you are. That you can't... I mean, maybe... You know what we should do? We should charge $950 for the rucking sweatpants. Make, two pairs.
Louis Vuitton's
charge $950. Will that exponentially increase the outrage?
Only if you get Gwyneth Paltrow in a pair.
Tell all your friends how outraged you are, right? And then it'll make the GR1 look better. So this is the theory. The most expensive bottle of wine on the menu, it never sells as well as the second most expensive bottle of wine. Because nobody wants to be a cheapskate, but you also don't want to pay what that most expensive bottle of wine costs. So if there's something else that's more, it feels like a discount now. So coming soon, $950 rucking sweatpants. Oh yeah, Monster needs to say goodbye. Come here. Hey, anything else?
Yeah, Lee, whose birthday was this week?
Whoa, no beer for you, Monster.
Oh.
Yes, good boy.
We got
Monster
a birthday
loves the
boy
sweatpants.
here.
Heyo.
Keeps it on
Cake
the low.
breaking, though, so we're ill prepared.
So you just want to tell everyone that it was my birthday this week?
Happy birthday.
Thanks, guys.
Happy birthday.
Flood the Tough page with birthday wishes.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just someone buy me a pair of those sweatpants. I can't afford them, but I really like them. So.
They're too expensive.
I really want a pair, but I can't swing
crazy
it.
to buy those. Right, Monster?
All right, is that it for now?
Are we good?
That's all I got.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time.